Good evening. David Ray. We're going to start tonight's education committee. Before we introduce ourselves, just for the folks that are at home watching, we did not remodel our committee room. We are out on assignment tonight. We are at Warren Central, out here on the east side, where we're going to get a presentation from Dr. Hanson and the good folks from Warren Township Schools. But before we do that, we can have some introductions from the counselors here today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jessica McCormick, District 15, West Side.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason Larison, District 12 on the East Side.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Allie Brown, District 5, Lawrence, Oakland, and Geist.
And again, my name, David Ray, District 19 here also on the East Side. So something that we've been talking about doing for some time, all the way back to pre-COVID, was getting this committee out within the city, into the schools, and getting input and giving input right to leaders from the different schools. And so tonight is our inaugural on the road event, and we're happy, extremely happy, to have Dr. Hanson with Warren Township Schools to lead us in a little presentation here today. So it's all you.
Thank you, Chairman Ray and City Councilors. We are excited to be your first host site. We've set the bar hopefully high for those who follow. Welcome to Warren Township. We're very grateful and thankful to have this opportunity to engage in some conversation tonight around two very important topics that I will turn over to Mr. Matt Parkinson, our CFO, and Doug Harder, our Community Engagement Director. First, I want to thank you for your leadership. I want to thank you for your advocacy for Indianapolis and the education that takes place in Indianapolis. We have partnered with the city on many occasions to serve our students here in Warren Township. Tonight we have two community presentations that we want to share with you. Both are around engaging with our community. The first one's going to be around our referendum. We have a referendum on the 2023 May ballot, and Mr. Parkinson provided you a copy of the presentation, and we'll be sharing some information with you this evening. We hope to engage in conversation, so if you have questions about what he presents, please feel free to ask. And the second presentation that you'll see tonight is from Doug Harder, and it's around a community-connected approach that we're building in Warren Township, starting as early as kindergarten, to engage our students on a career path that will expose them, engage them, and provide them experiences so that when they leave Warren Central High School, they have a better feel for what they want to do when they leave us, and that they're better equipped. So we're excited to share that with you as well. With that, it's my pleasure to turn it over to our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Matt Parkinson.
Thank you, Dr. Hanson. Good evening, council members. It's really nice to meet you this evening. We appreciate you coming out to the east side of Indianapolis. I'm going to spend just a few minutes talking through our May 2023 operating referendum. We want to share what's on the ballot and what the impact would be for taxpayers in the community. So just some background on referenda for those who maybe don't know the sort of full story of what a referendum is. Here in Indiana, school corporations can run three types of referendum. There's an operating referendum. Operating referendum is used for your operations as a school district. Capital referendum, which is used for either building construction or renovation. And then a relatively new one, a school safety referendum. Here in MSD Warren Township, we've only run an operating referendum. We ran it for the first time in 2018. And this cycle we're running a repeal and replace operating referendum, where our goal is to pass this referendum and then voluntarily repeal the one that passed in 2018. Timeline for folks in the community and folks who are participating this evening. In January, we asked our board to authorize an operating referendum. By statute, then we turned around and asked the State Department of Local Government Finance to approve the ballot language as adopted by our school board. But the LGF did. They approved it in the same manner that it was passed by our school board. In February, we took it to, we filed it with the county clerk and city county council, and it went before the election board, and at this point, we're through all the procedural steps. And the question will be on the May 2nd ballot. I'm not going to read the full ballot question to you, but I am going to point out just a difference between how this ballot question is phrased and what many folks who have been through the referendum process in the past are used to. So up until just a couple of years ago, the ballot question would say, may the school corporation pass an operating referendum for the purpose of doing these various things, and I'll talk through what the 5 things are for us, at a maximum tax rate, and this is the key part I want to emphasize. Under the former ballot question for us, the question would say at a maximum tax rate of 30 cents per $100 of taxable assessed value. Several years ago, the General Assembly changed the format of the ballot question, and so now instead of having the tax rate on the question itself, instead we see percentages, and the percentages are meant to represent the increase in tax collections to the school district. And I'll talk through why that's at least challenging, I think, for a lot of folks, understandably, as they read through the question. As I mentioned, if the 2023 referendum is passed, it will repeal and replace the 2018 referendum. We included that in the resolution by the school board, so this isn't stacking 2 on top of each other. It's if 2023 passes, 2018 is voluntarily repealed, and then it resets the cycle for 8 years. We have 5 items on our ballot question: pre-K through grade 12 transportation, staff retention and recruitment, professional development and family engagement, student and staff technology, school safety and security, and then student learning, K-12 and college career readiness, and K-12 enrichment. You know, as we're getting around to the community and talking about what this is, to us, these are the basics of running a school district in 2023. We're not adding new programming. We don't think that we're doing anything that's far out there. I mean, this is what's fundamentally required to be successful as a school corporation post-pandemic in 2023. Our spending proposal is here on the screen. By statute, these are numbers that we have to ask our board to adopt, and they did. We estimate if the referendum is successful that we'll generate about $11 million in 2024. And the breakdown of how we anticipate spending that next year is on the screen. $3 million in transportation, 2.8 staff retention, 1.5 on technology, 1.6 on safety and security, and $2.1 million on student learning, college, and career readiness. So as I mentioned, the ballot question itself warrants just a little bit of conversation. Because of the way that it's been rephrased, it would be completely understandable for a voter to get to the polling place and read it and maybe not quite see exactly what it's trying to say. So there's 2 things that are challenging for us as a school district when it comes to the ballot question. The first is the percentage listed on the question is calculated as if we did not already have a referendum in place. So here in Warren Township, we have a 21-cent referendum today. That's what our voters approved in 2018. If the 2023 referendum passes, we will be again repealing that 21-cent referendum and replacing it with a 30-cent referendum. The ballot question calculates the percentage as if we were going from 0 to 30 cents. The reality for us is that we have the 21-cent referendum today. If we happen to be unsuccessful, we continue to have a 21-cent referendum rate next year. The other thing that's challenging about it is the percentage is indicating an additional dollar amount that's contributed to the school district, not an overall increase on the property tax bill. So the percentages on the bottom say 29.4% for residential property, 21.7% for a business property. So the key thing to remember when it comes to the property tax bill is, for us, for a lot of Marion County, but for us, in most of our school district is about half of the overall property tax bill. For our taxpayers that live in Cumberland, it's about 1/3 of the overall property tax bill. And this percentage is indicating the additional revenue that would be collected by the school district, not the increase on the property tax bill itself to the taxpayer. So bottom line, the referendum, we're not running from this. We're asking for additional support for our community, but it's not a 29.4% increase. It's not a 21.7% increase. Our average home here in MSD Warren Township is valued at a little bit under $150,000. The net assessed value on that home, after you apply the standard deduction, supplemental standard deduction, and mortgage deduction, is a little under $64,000. The maximum tax rate we've proposed is 30 cents. The maximum tax rate for which we're approved today is 21 cents. So the net difference is 9 cents per $100 of assessed value. For our average taxpayer, it's a little bit under $5 per month, about $57 on the year. I just want to briefly share a few of the financial challenges that we have as a school district. I'm confident every school district in the city and in the state has these challenges right now too. Transportation has been a major challenge this year when it comes to paying for fuel. We've got about half of our fleet is diesel and about half of our fleet is propane. We're working toward getting the large majority of our fleet to be propane. The prices for both is up this year, the price for diesel and the price for propane. One of my morning routines that I don't like admitting is true is that I look at the gas station across the street each morning when I walk in, and the gap, what I try to tell folks, the gap between unleaded prices and diesel prices is higher now than it's been any time in recent history, and we're paying those diesel prices on half our fleet. We had a significant increase in circuit breaker loss this year. We're expecting that we're still going to have heavy circuit breaker loss in 2024. Property and casualty insurance is up. This is our first year that our property insurance was up over $1 million. So that's a major piece of, for us, what's our operations fund. Utilities, like everybody everywhere, utilities are significant for us. We're going to spend over $1 million more on our electric bill alone this year. We're going to be north of $4 million just on the lights for our building. And then, of course, we got gas for heating, trash, water, so on. School buses, again, in the transportation realm, school buses are up significantly. We buy between 12 and 13 school buses every year. They were up over $30,000 between when we bought them in 2022 and when we bought them in 2021. That's, of course, a challenge for us, and then student devices. This is all to say, we're in a unique moment as a school district. Some of the financial challenges we face are major barriers for us in terms of putting dollars where we want to, which is in the classroom. And then, of course, those are non-personnel items. It's a tough time personnel-wise as well. The employment market is it's really tight, especially in the education space, teachers and support staff. Since late 2021, we've used some of our ESSER dollars, some of our federal pandemic relief, to provide some supplemental compensation for our support staff. It's a temporary increase, and we're hoping to maintain a model that looks roughly like that if the referendum is successful. Now, one thing, I'm going to show a few numbers on salaries. I do want to point out one thing that we sell to potential candidates for our school district is our benefits package. As a school district, we pay 89% of health insurance premiums, which is more than many of our peers do. So that's part of what we sell. That said, we as a school district certainly have challenges when it comes to competing in what's already a tight labor market. So these are our neighboring school districts. Average salaries paid to teachers last school year, and we're unfortunately not on the side of that list that we want to be on. We're working aggressively to pull our number up as we have to compete, and of course to reward our valuable employees, but this is a challenge for us. In the same way, starting salary, we're lower on the list than we would like to be, and this is a major challenge when it comes to recruiting, especially those who are new to the profession. So just 3 more slides. This sometimes has a different take when I'm speaking just with our community. I like to share with the community where we are on a referendum property tax rate compared to our peers, just to try to put in context the requests that we're putting forth. So as you all I'm sure are aware, here in Marion County we have 11 school districts. 9 have passed an operating referendum, a capital referendum, or both. Again, here in Warren, we've only run and passed an operating referendum. In 2022, we had the lowest referendum rate out of the 9 school districts that had passed a referendum at 21 cents. If we're successful at 30-cent rate, we would be 6th in the county, so roughly right in the middle. And then in the same way, in 2022, referendum levies, those are the property tax dollars raised per student. In 2022, we raised $539 per student with our referendum levy, which was the lowest in the county. If we're successful in the referendum, we still anticipate that we would have the lowest referendum levy per student in the county. So bottom line, the last slide I've got, we believe the referendum fund's a critical investment from the community in addressing our school district's needs. So we're asking the community to approve the referendum in 2023, at which point we'll voluntarily repeal that 2018 referendum. And the successful referendum, we often tell folks in our community, allows us to build on the successes we already have through our current referendum and then some of the things we've been able to do through federal pandemic relief. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councilor Brown.
Thank you. This is a great presentation. Though I'm a Lawrence schools parent, I'm a fan of Warren Township schools. I just have a question about the campaign that you're going to have to do. What are you doing to get out? As politicians, we know that people read a bit and then you have to explain to them 85 times for them to understand, like what this means. So with this language, how are you guys handling that? Do you have a door-to-door campaign? Is it parent education? What are you doing?
Yeah, so all of the above is the answer to the question. One thing Dr. Hansen likes to say is 10 times 10 ways. Yeah. That's our style of communicating, so we're trying to hit people as many ways as we can. We've got just information about what the referendum is in newsletters that go out from building principals to families, and mailers that we've been distributing in the community. We've got hard copies in all of our buildings and all of our events. We had a safety event last week. We've got open houses for some construction projects that are wrapping up, and a referendum-specific event that we're going to have in April. So we're trying every way we can to get the word out. It is going to be a challenge for sure. If people get to the ballot, and that's the first time they've seen the question, that's the reality is that's just an obstacle today.
Just to follow up on that, because we are all on the ballot this year, so I'm hyper aware of this, except Larison, because he doesn't want to continue with us. Absentee ballot requests are already going out, and you can get that list from the election division every day, and we do follow-up phone calls, but that may be a way to put great parents or PTO into calling all those people who are getting that now.
Great, yeah, we appreciate it.
Counselor McCormick.
Thank you. I have a couple of things, and really it's just to clarify, I guess, questions that came up myself, but anybody who's watching. So a portion of it is for staff retention, and it was that 2.8 million. Do you know how much of that will be for retention versus the family engagement and other areas? As an educator, the higher you can get it and the more that you can get any educator, I support. So I just want to make sure that maybe that's something you address.
Yeah, the large majority of that piece, that 2.8 million piece, is for staff retention. And most specifically, again, the main thing we're doing is through our federal pandemic relief, we provided some temporary compensation to our staff, our hourly staff in particular. We've been really deliberate with our staff in saying we're not saying it's necessarily going to be that $2.50 an hour onward and forever, but meaningfully we're going to contribute to support staff compensation as the first thing we do if the referendum passes.
Okay, wonderful. And a couple other things. So the average taxpayer impact is, average on homestead was $4.79 a month.
That's correct.
Is that the new number, or is that on top of what they already pay?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you asking that question. That's a good clarifying question. That is on top of what they're paying today.
Okay, so the 21 cents per hundred is not included in that 479?
Right, that 479 would be the reflection of that 9-cent increase that we're requesting.
Can I ask a couple more? Just notes coming.
You may.
Thank you. So utilities going up, and I'm wondering if you guys have done any energy assessments on your buildings to try to save money that way. If you have, it looks like maybe you have, but if you haven't, I'm going to guess your PLTW students would be a good resource to get them into that. If not, IUPUI Engineering has an audit where you can have students come out and audit you, and there's no charge for you guys. It's part of the community thing that they do.
Yeah, we appreciate that idea on IUPUI group for sure. But we have been meeting with various groups when it comes to our building. So we did have an assessment that was completed in the fall. Last week, our Chief Operations Officer and I met with a separate vendor on the same idea. We happen to have a meeting with AES tomorrow looking at potential projects. So this is an area that we're trying to be proactive on.
Yeah, so my full-time day gig, I spend most of my time at Butler, but I'm at IUPUI too. And when Butler went through and did the assessment, there were millions of dollars that they were able to find and recapture versus wasted energy. So it's the money's there. And then my last thing is for the financial challenges, so the average you listed Lawrence, Franklin, IPS, Southern Hancock, and Warren. Will you change in that average with this new referendum? Will your teachers' average go up to maybe be the third lowest or the third highest?
Yeah, I don't know if I can answer that. I don't know if that's something I can say definitively. Certainly we're going to be in a better position to make aggressive moves if the referendum passes. There are, I think, enough other variables. But by far the main source of compensation for our teachers is state tuition support, which comes from the state. And so it depends on probably what our enrollment does. We have made a very firm commitment that we're moving up that list. We have to compete, and our folks deserve it. I don't want to overpromise and say the referendum itself is what's going to get us up there.
Right, no, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do want to point out too, I should have mentioned this earlier, one of the things we've also done with ESSER is we've got $8 million going into HVAC renovations around our school district, and we fully expect that's going to help us drive down costs over time.
Absolutely.
Great stuff. Councilor Larson.
Yeah, I think actually my fellow counselors answered most of the questions that I had, but I think it's worth reiterating. Just as complicated as the referendum question is laid out, it really is so simple that it needs to be repeated and repeated and repeated. you're talking about less than $5 per month for the average homestead to make this improvement for Warren Township schools. And I think that's, to me, I think that's a no-brainer. It should be a slam dunk. I think, going back to the communication part, I think it's just a matter of making sure you guys 10 times 10 different ways.
I like that.
Drill that message in, because it is such an easy spin.
Thank you, we appreciate that.
I love the 10 times 10
I wrote it
ways.
down
That's
too. I think we all did.
absolutely.
Yes, I too wrote that down, so
Yeah.
we'll all be using that if that's okay.
Yeah.
Good,
You
good.
might want to go trademark.
Great. Okay, well, good stuff, good questions. Is that good, Matt? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
I did.
Well, again, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit with you tonight about our strategic plan, which is to invest in the future of our graduates, as well as our vision of a journey to graduate. And so that's where I'll start, is with some work that began a few years ago. This was created in 2019. We invited lots of stakeholders, staff, parents, students to be a part of this process to identify those key characteristics, those skills, those dispositions that we believe that all graduates should have in order to be successful once they leave our doors. And so you can see, again, we call this the journey of a graduate. And so we've identified these 6 skills and dispositions, like collaboration, communication, content knowledge, critical thinking, resiliency, and citizenship. And so this is still a part of what we are doing. However, when this was created in 2019, we had 2 factors that kind of caused us to hit pause a little bit. One was the pandemic itself. And so we weren't able to fully embed this in our everyday practice. We weren't able to, for example, communicate how is this different, how does this look different at the elementary level versus at the high school level? Specifically, like how, in terms of how do you assess this and things like that. And so there was still work to be done, but the pandemic kind of interrupted that. The second thing was that the state of Indiana, the Department of Education, started to make some changes also. And so there's really 2 specific things. One is the graduation pathways, and that is the new way in which students are able to graduate. And also the new Indiana GPS, or that stands for Graduates Prepared to Succeed. And so that's kind of the new way in which schools and districts are going to be held accountable. And so this provides us an opportunity to kind of revisit our work with the journey of a graduate and see if we want to make some adjustments and things like that. So with that, in the same time, the state of Indiana last spring, the Department of Education announced that they were going to be providing what's called the 3E grant to school districts who were interested in building or working around creating a college career readiness framework. And that would do a lot of this same kind of work as well as align with the new Indiana GPS. And so we were one of 7 districts that were chosen to do this work. And so this work, I'd like to kind of put it into 3 kind of categories in terms of creating this college and career readiness framework. The first one is characteristics and skills, and so that speaks specifically to our journey to graduate work. We want to build those skills in students as they travel from K to 12. And secondly, then, is the experiences. We want to provide our students with what we like to call guaranteed experiences for all students, not just ones that can pay for something or have access to somebody. We want to provide opportunities for all students. So it's really an equitable approach. And so again, I'll talk a little bit more about this, but again, we want to identify experiences as a student travels, again, K to 12, that then culminate in the outcome that we're looking for. And then the third category is we want our students to earn credentials. And so the high school diploma in itself is still an accomplishment. We honor that. And however, we also recognize that high school diploma is just that. And so we want our students to be more competitive when they leave our doors. And so we are looking to have what's called a value-added approach. We want to add value to that high school diploma. And so our goal is for every Warren Central High School graduate to be prepared for, and this is where some E's come in enrollment in post-secondary education, employment, enlistment, and then we also like to include entrepreneurship. And so I want to draw your eyes to every, because this is an approach that's not only a systemic approach K-12, but we are really wanting every student to be prepared to do that. Now again, I've been at lots of different high schools in my career. I think every high school would say, yes, we strive to prepare every student for these things. What we are looking to do is to have tangible evidence verifying and validating that they are ready. Now that's different. And so when you look at a high school like Warren Central High School, where we have 3,300 students, that is quite a different story. Right now we have kind of a self-selected system where students self-select whether they are choosing more of a career path. We want to have more of an intentional approach in what we're doing. And I think Dr. Hansen mentioned this at the very beginning, this is also a community-connected approach. Because again, if we are truly going to provide experiences, provide students with the opportunity to earn credentials for every one of our seniors, so we have close to 800 seniors, we have to have a community-connected approach. It's essential that we have community partners come alongside us to do this work. We have to think outside our walls, because we can't do this ourselves and provide those kind of opportunities. So it's truly a community-connected approach. And again, we are wanting to be in alignment with the Department of Education's new Indiana GPS and the graduation pathways. So with us being selected as one of 7 in the state to receive the 3E grant, part of that is now we are partnered with an organization called Ford Next Generation Learning. And yes, they are an arm of Ford Motor Company. They are funded through the Ford Motor Fund. And so they have been doing this work in terms of transformation of schools for, I think, 20 years. And they work with over 50 school districts across the country. They actually also work with some school districts in the United Kingdom. And so we are now partnered with Ford. We have been assigned what are called Ford coaches. And so about a month ago, we kind of had our first engagement with them, and they spent an entire week here at MSD of Warren visiting our schools, talking to our staff, talking to our parents, talking to our students, just to learn a little bit about what we are doing. And so then that will help them help us down the road. And so you can see their community-connected transformation model really consists of these 3 elements. So I'll start with the far left side. Part of this is transforming teaching and learning. And so it's creating opportunities within the classroom for more project-based, more experiential learning opportunities, where students are producing something. It's not something that they're just regurgitating information back to the teacher. And so we are already having conversations around creating more project-based learning classes at the high school. And our hope is that every high school student then, it's guaranteed to have multiple opportunities in what's called PBL learning opportunities. The second one is transforming the culture, the systems, the structures of schools. And so we are looking at how can we restructure specifically the high school, so that it allows us to create these opportunities for all of our students. And so we're having conversations about creating smaller learning communities, so that, for one, it's a way for us to help develop relationships with students. It also is a way the mechanism to have teachers support one another and collaborate and share best practices. And so we really feel that is a great opportunity for us to do that. And then the third is transforming our partnerships with the community. And so, as I already shared, we have to depend on our community partners. And so we have a lot of community partners already through our Walker Career Center in terms of allowing students. They've opened their doors for our students to have work-based learning opportunities. But again, I would estimate we probably have about 100 students participating in those things. We want to scale up so that, again, if I take just our senior class, to have all 800 students having some type of opportunity like that. But it's more than just opening their doors for our students. This is also, we want to invite them to work with our teachers, work alongside our teachers to take a look at the curriculum. One of the criticisms of schools typically is that we're always a little bit behind what's really needed in the real world, and that the skills that we're teaching are not necessarily always the most relevant anymore. And so this is an opportunity, it's a way to ensure that our teachers, if I'm the accounting teacher, and if I have someone from Teachers Credit Union coming alongside me and saying, that's a skill that we really need at TCU or other banks, then we embed that into our curriculum. Then our students are learning what business partners are telling us is the most relevant, and they're developing those skills right now. So it's devoting their time and talent to us beyond just opening their doors. And then lastly, I would also say we love the opportunities to have our teachers have an externship opportunity in business, because a lot of our teachers, they went into education, they may be an expert in the content of that field, but they really haven't had real world, I guess, experience at an industry level. And this would give them an opportunity to go experience that firsthand. So then when they go back to the classroom, they can even better teach our students because they can talk to it from a firsthand experience. So the three main outcomes, we want to improve student outcomes, we want to improve workforce outcomes, and then obviously to improve community prosperity. And that really resonates here on the east side. We need to find ways to provide community prosperity. We recognize most of our graduates are going to stay here in Indianapolis. They're going to live here in Indianapolis. They're going to be the ones in the future paying taxes, spending money, working. And so we've got to provide an opportunity so that they can be successful in their futures as well. So I'm going to just share a couple of examples. We've taken a couple of trips. There's a couple teams of Warren folks that have gone to see this model in action. We went to Akron Public Schools in the fall, and we just recently went to Nashville Public Schools in Tennessee to see the Ford model in action. Now, we want to make it our own, and we will make it our own because it has to fit Warren. But I want to give you just a visual of kind of what they've done so that you can start to kind of visualize yourself maybe what we're looking to do here in Warren. But you'll see here on this screen that Akron, you can see they have 7 high schools, and they have divided their high schools into what are called academies. And then within those academies are particular career pathways. And so a couple things I'd like to highlight. For one, you'll see that there's some companies that have partnered with Akron Public Schools, and there's some branding going on. So you see things like Goodyear, you see Bridgestone, Key Bank, and then you have some post-secondary education partners like Kent State and Akron. And so for one, I think this is a win-win because it provides some branding for companies. It also provides some legitimacy, having them involved with the schools. But then within that, so if I'm a student who's interested in going into business, I could choose to go to East High School and I could pick the finance pathway. And so we are looking to replicate something like this. Now this is spread out over 7 high schools. We have 1 high school and a career center. So it's going to look different for us. But we're looking at creating some smaller learning communities and identifying career pathways for our students. Right now, for example, we offer 26 career pathways through Walker Career Center, which is wonderful. But we want to be strategic. We want to have our selections reflect the current workforce data. So, for example, we know that healthcare is a booming industry here in Indianapolis. It's the biggest employer, and that's not going to change anytime soon. And there's a shortage of workers. So that tells us we need to increase our opportunities for students to earn their CNA or medical assisting or Project Lead the Way biomedical science, those types of opportunities for our students. And so we're going to emphasize those types of career pathways, and then perhaps some career pathways that maybe have a low demand in the workforce, or we have a low interest level. Maybe we decide to do away with that so that we can open up more space for others. A second visual I'd like to share with you is just, this is an example of what Akron has done to visualize their guaranteed experiences for students K to 12. So for example, if I'm a 3rd grader in Akron, I'm going to this farm and village opportunity. So here in Warren, we already do some of these things. Our 4th graders, for example, all of our 4th graders today went to the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra and had that experience. We also, in our 4th graders, go to Conner Prairie. So we have some of those things, and so we are in the process right now of mapping out what we already do. I'll just highlight a couple more. Like our 5th graders participate in BizTown. We have a partnership with Junior Achievement. Our 8th graders go to the Junior Achievement Job Spark. But those are great things, but then maybe we are lacking something at 7th grade or something like that. And so we want to be intentional to build in guaranteed experiences for each grade level for every student. And then you can see, then it culminates when you get to high school. And so, and again, in their model, the whole career academy model starts in their sophomore year. And so they start to take a career interest course their sophomore year. They do the same as a junior, and then their senior year they take 2 courses, and they're also able to do some work-based learning opportunities. And so we are looking again to follow this kind of model and create one that fits us here in Warren. The last few slides I'll just share with you is some of our work that we've been doing just this year in terms of community partnerships. So the first I'd like to highlight is our new partnership with Employ Indy. We had currently had a relationship with them through offering JAG, but we are now looking to expand or broaden our relationship with Employ Indy, and they've agreed to what's called a convening organization. They are going to be a strategic partner with us as we implement the Ford model. And so we are really excited about Employ Indy coming alongside us. And so you can see that they have a variety of plans or services for schools. They have what's called Talent Bound, they have Job Ready, they have JAG, Modern Apprenticeship. And so I'm just going to highlight Talent Bound. And so this is a continuum of experiences for students. And so it kind of starts on the very far left-hand side of, you could have guest speakers come in. That's called their talent talk. Then it moves on to Talent Day, where employers come in for like a career fair. Then as you move along, you can have a talent tour, which is industry tours of local businesses. And then as you get over to the right side, things like job shadowing, internships, and then apprenticeships. And so because we are starting our partnership with Employ Indy in this way, We are already identifying a couple of things that we're going to start next year with Employ India. We're looking to bring in guest speakers. We're looking to do some industry tours so that we can begin to have our folks working with Employ Indy and utilize their great connections with the local business community. So this is something we're really excited about. Another partnership that we are working on is with IU Bloomington to be able to offer what's called the Indiana College Core. And now the Indiana College Core has been around for a while, but in the past it was only exclusively offered through Ivy Tech or Vincennes. And so what's great about the IU Bloomington core is that, again, it brings that legitimacy with IU Bloomington, and the credits with IU Bloomington are guaranteed to transfer. And so it's a block of 30 credit hours of general education coursework that students can earn in high school, and it's for free. IU used to charge $25 a credit hour. This year, they've now changed that, and there's no tuition fee charge. So our students could earn the equivalent of their freshman year for free before they leave our doors. And so we are working on this to be able to offer that here in the future. So again, we're really excited about that. And then the second thing we're working with IU on is what is called the WRCA, or Well-Rounded Course Access. And this is an online option for our students. And so if we're not able to offer a particular class because maybe there wasn't enough enrollment, and so we can't run the class, we could still have our student, and they're still interested in a particular class, they could potentially then take the course online and then still be able to take advantage of that. And so we're, again, excited about that opportunity for our students. And then the last one I'd like to highlight is we've established a new partnership with the University of Indianapolis. And this is also part of a grant that the DOE has issued. It's called the Attract, Prepare, and Retain Grant, and that UIndy was the receiver of, but then we were selected to participate with. And it's a grow your own approach. It's a way to address the teacher shortage. And so along with this, we've asked them, and they've agreed to be able to offer dual credit classes in the education professions pathway. And so now a student at Warren Central, and we're going to be able to do this next year, starting next year, is that a student who has chosen the education professions pathway, again, they're going to take a series of 4 courses. Each one of those, not only will they earn a high school credit for, and also qualify for the CTE Concentrator Completer for graduation pathways, now they will also be able to earn college credit in each one of those classes. So they can earn 12 credit hours through the University of Indianapolis on top of some of the other dual credit offerings we have. And so the idea is that when they graduate, they perhaps will go to the University of Indianapolis, and then they will stay in the field of education. They obviously would have to come to do field hours, student teaching. We would then be the site for those field visits or the field experiences and their student teaching. We would hire them as kind of like an instructional assistant, pay them, and then we would hire them once they've completed all their degree requirements, so that we're growing our own, we're bringing them back. And so we're really excited about the potential for this opportunity. So I wanted to highlight those 3 partnerships that we are currently working on that'll impact our students almost immediately. So with that, I will field any kind of questions that you may have about this.
Councilor Brown.
Thank you. So my familiarity with Warren Township Schools was I worked in construction workforce development for years and got to visit Walker and got to even visit some of the homes that are built. So when you're doing all of this, how does that affect the CTE as you already have it? Because what you have is outstanding, but how do you grow that or protect that, I guess, when you're adding, instead of 100 kids, 800 kids?
All right. So, yeah, you are correct. What we already offer are fantastic programs. but it's only impacting a certain number of students. So that's our challenge, is how do we scale this so that more students can take advantage of this. And so it's our approach is we want to build upon the great things that we're already doing, and to impact more students, impact more of the community. And so that's why we have to think more creatively. And so, for example, our CNA classes are pretty full, and so there's a waiting list. So if we had a partnership with another organization, could CNA classes be offered, say, at community hospital, so that we double the number of students earning their CNA and get outside of our walls? And so it's that kind of approach that we're looking to do.
Awesome.
Councilor Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Harder. This has been spectacular to hear about, and congratulations to the entire school corporation for obtaining this grant. You know, the last thing you mentioned was talking about University of Indianapolis and the Grow Our Own, and I know with the announcement of Dr. Sting as the new president, that was one of the things that she chose to reiterate, is University of Indianapolis wanting to grow our own, you know, keep our graduates here. So I think, you know, talking about Warren Township students end up being the next taxpayers and the next citizens and the next, you know, everything for our community. I think that seems like a very logical connection to have. One of the most interesting things that I think that you brought up is, in talking about the 3E grant, is, you know, we hear everyone talk about enrollment and employment and enlistment. I rarely hear about entrepreneurship, and I'm really proud of myself for having said that word
without messing it up.
Without messing it up. I'm from Southern Indiana, and I mess words up all the time. That excites me, just because it takes a certain skill set to have your own business and start things up and to basically depend on yourself. But I also think that some of those characteristics make for good employees in general. So I'd be excited. I know you guys are, you know, you're just getting into it, but I'd be excited to hear more about that and how you plan on building on it.
Sure. And by the way, I'm from South Central Indiana, so, you know, we got to stay together. You sound just fine to me.
It's taken a lot of practice.
So, you know, this generation of students, they are creators. You know, it's different than like when we were in high school, you received the information. This is different. You know, they like to create something and then you adjust and then you know, make an edit or whatever it may be after the fact. Whereas we were kind of taught you had to perfect it first, and then you made your presentation. So they already have that kind of that mindset. So that's, I think, another reason. And we also know that, you know, that's, you know, a great way to, it's a job creator is entrepreneurship. So we've partnered with P30. They are just up the road, just a few blocks, and that stands for Post and 30th, but it's a co-working space, it's an entrepreneur incubator, and so we are hopeful to create opportunities for our students to maybe be mentored by current entrepreneurs who are doing it every day, and so that they could be encouraged, they can learn those skills, and so anyway, we're really excited about that opportunity and expanding what that might look like.
That's awesome. Councilor McCormick.
Thank you. To touch on what Councilor Brown said, so we have the 4 E's: enrollment, employment, enlistment, and entrepreneurship. I said it right, from Southern Indiana too. And I'm guessing it falls under employment, but the trades. So our trades, can we think of an E? I'm just wondering if you can think of an E to put in there so it's more, has that focus and that intent, because we don't want to leave them out. That's that comment. With the model that you had from Akron, and I know you just have the high school and the career center, so being 15, 16, what do you want to do? Like, are you gonna have a plan so there's options to jump back and forth or be in between if you aren't really sure? Because I work with college kids and they're 18 and they still don't know what they want to do, right? I don't know what I want to do when I grow up, so expecting them to. So I don't know if you've had that thought or consideration.
Yes, so that's been a consistent question that has been asked both at Akron and at Nashville. So again, the students, they start their high school career in what's called a freshman academy, and prior to that and in their freshman year, they're learning about the different pathways before they can choose. And they've also done some, interest inventories about, maybe where their strengths are, what they think they would like to do. And we already are doing that. We have a sophomore program called Zello that, again, it starts even into elementary level, all the way through middle school and high school, where they go through a series of activities where they learn about their interests, they learn about their strengths, things like that. But then starting in your sophomore year is when you select a career pathway and you go into one of those academies, and for us that would be like a learning community. They allow a student to change once during that 3-year period. So if a student starts their sophomore year in finance and decide, no, this is not what I want to do, they do allow a student to change. But what also needs to be emphasized is, just like our, what we're trying to do with our Journey to Graduate, those skills that they're learning, that we're building, really are able to be used in any field you go into. So if you stay in a career pathway that you decide at the end of the day, that's not what I want to do, those skills that you've earned, those experiences you've had are still going to carry with you, and you're going to be more successful regardless. And on top of that, I think we would all agree, wouldn't it be better for a student to have at least some idea before they graduate? There's so many students who go to college, spend a lot of money, and to your point, they still don't know what they really want to do. So we're trying to at least get them more exposed to that earlier, and then decide if they want to change that before they spend a whole lot of money.
Right, and exactly, and I love it, and my background's in engineering, and PLTW didn't exist then, and I love that it does now because it answers those questions. So one last comment, and it's probably not good, you may not like how I'm going to say this, but as in higher education, I love that kids can get dual credit and can earn college credit, but when we say they're going to get the 30 credits, right, from IU, it doesn't mean that they get out of their freshman year, because their degree may not have, those credits may not all fall into the right place. So for my students, I only have 15 credits that you can throw that into. So you have 15 credits that you've done, you have to work for, and they're transcripted, but it doesn't cut down, it doesn't take away from any of that. So sometimes, and this is across the board with all academic areas in K through 12, I bring this up, is there's a way to word it, because I meet with the parents who are like, well, we have 30 credits, so I should only have 3 years left. And I'm like, that's not really how it works. And I think sometimes parents come to me and are jaded, and like they are shocked when they're like, it doesn't all work. So sometimes adding that disclaimer at the bottom of things is helpful for those of us in higher ed.
Well, and so to your point, if we were talking about just random acts of dual credit, then that is accurate. What's different with the Indiana College Core, though, is that the state of Indiana has and the institutions have all agreed that they will accept all, because those represent the gen ed requirements of every institution. So if a student earns it through IU Bloomington, that's guaranteed to transfer any public college or university. Now, if they end up going to Butler, that may not be the case, or something like that. But to your other good point is that regardless, it would still count as an elective credit if there's a specific class. Like my own daughter earned a lot of dual credits when she went through high school. When she went to Purdue, Purdue still wanted her to take her classes in her major, so she still had to do those, and then those that, she just got elective credit for it. So it's still a help, though, because those elective credits those are classes that they don't have to take. So they're still saving, some money, significant money in terms of earning those credits.
Oh, right, absolutely, yeah. So even if they can't use all 30, and I know they transfer, but for example, like the math class they have through IU might not be the level of math that they need at IUPUI on the engineering side, right. So they can't use that core credit that they receive. So yeah, the credits come in and they have their benefits, and I applaud everybody for doing that and what we're able to do at the high school level, preparing our kids. So it's just sometimes different degrees, there's not a gen ed place to put the credit, is all. But yeah, thank you.
Great, good questions. Any more questions for Doug? Okay. Well, that's pretty much all I think we wanted to talk about. I would just like to say thank you to Dr. Hanson for our first one. Doug, Matt, this was absolutely perfect.
Far side.
Lots of good information. You know, I get to attend some of the township meetings and some of the neighborhood meetings, and we're always talking about things that are happening over Warren. There's a lot of great things that are happening over here, and I know we all have that. Ours are just better because we're right around the east side. And so again, the bar was set very high. I appreciate that. I appreciate all you guys are doing for the east side. And I'll offer up if there's anything I can be doing or this council committee can be doing, please reach out. And so that is it for the agenda tonight. Thanks for making the track out here, everyone, and safe travels getting home.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.